I want to talk this week about things that that have happened, like Kanye's comment about Trump and how everybody freaked out over that. And if there's time, I want to talk about the Koreas as well and how what a big deal that is for people that aren't aware. First of all, Kanye did what we all should be doing, and that is thinking for himself. He is not falling into the category of identity politics. And maybe to some extent he does, but in this case, he truly did not. And it has exposed that liberals do not want people to think for themselves. Because Kanye made a comment that, we should be supporting the president because, we just should. I mean, why would we not want to do that? Like, that supporting him and agreeing with him are basically two different things. And you don't have to agree with someone to not want them to fail. And as a result, he lost millions of followers. And all the liberals are up in arms about how stupid he is for saying that. And other celebrities, liberal celebrities, are telling him that he should apologize for saying that. Apologize for saying that he doesn't think that it's necessary to want the president to fail. Okay, that is the equivalent of working for a company and hoping that they go bankrupt or out of business. Like, you will lose in that situation. And if our president fails, we all lose. It doesn't matter if you agree with him or disagree with him. You should always want the country that you live in and that gives you benefits, whether that benefit is actual benefits like money, or whether it's freedom, or whether it's, free speech or whatever, which he exercised his right to free speech and basically got, ran over by the liberal bus for doing so. You should always hope that the country that you live in is successful if you are benefiting from living there. And if you're not benefiting from living here and you don't hope that it's successful, then get the hell out of our country. Like, honestly, that's it. You should not be an American citizen hoping that the American president fails at what he's doing. I mean, I don't know how much more plainly I can say that. And I'm not a big Kanye fan. I didn't he do that Gold Digger song back in 2006 or something? I don't know. Most of the music I listened to came out before I was born. So, but anyway, I'm not really a huge Kanye fan, but I am a fan of free thinking and of thinking for oneself and not being afraid to exercise your right to free speech. And for that, I applaud Kanye because he stepped out of the box of identity politics and spoke his mind. And he got a lot of flack for doing it from people who don't think that anyone should have the right to free speech or to think for themselves and should just be a sheep, which is what I say at the end of my message every week or every week and a half or however often I feel like doing this, that one should not do. And he truly didn't do that. And as a result, the liberals have basically abandoned him and are continuing to say bad things about him. And that should be a clue to basically everybody out there that if somebody steps up and says, we should not want our president to fail because that would mean our country is going to fail, and an entire group of, politically minded people, the left in this case, tells you you're wrong for saying that, that should be the biggest clue to everybody in the country that they do not have the best interest of America at heart. Because what they have at heart, what their focus is making Trump look bad. Which leads us to the whole thing with Korea. I have actually seen posts saying, it's unfortunate that North Korea did not nuke us. It would have made Trump look bad. Are there words? Does anybody have words for that? I mean, what do you say to some idiot that thinks that way? That is willing to sacrifice the well-being of Americans and the lives of whatever city North Korea could have potentially bombed just because they want Trump to look bad. They wanted Trump to start World War III, and instead he ended the Korean War. And they're mad about that. And I don't understand that. As a history teacher, I don't understand how anybody can be upset that a world war did not start. Most of the liberals that are really upset about that are people that are my age or younger than me, who probably texted their way through history class and have no idea what actually happened in either of the world wars. If they're my age, they didn't text during class because we didn't have that capability. And it cost 10 cents a text back then. So most of us didn't do that because we would have had our phones taken away by our parents because punishments existed back then. But if they're younger than me, they probably texted their way through their classes and have, spent all day on their phones and never paid a bit of attention to what was going on in their class. Neither of the world wars ended well for anybody. Everybody that was involved lost people. Everybody that was involved, except for very few countries that weren't directly involved like us, well, the war didn't come here. And yeah, Hawaii got bombed, by the Japanese, but Hawaii technically wasn't a state at the time. It was a territory. And so because it wasn't a state at the time, it wasn't actually, we didn't consider that an attack on U.S. soil. The mainland United States escaped, for the most part, the war and the damage, but every other country involved where the war actually, Japan in World War I, again, mostly escaped that because it was basically Europe's war. It didn't end well for anybody. Everybody had damage. Everybody had casualties. And this would have been a completely different kind of war. Like the way that World War I was as related to like the Civil War and wars before that, that big of a change, that's what we would have seen if World War III had started. And it would not just be something like, oh, well, some people died, now Trump looks bad. It would have been a really big deal and a really bad thing to happen. And if you're sitting there upset because we didn't go to nuclear war lengths with Korea and they didn't nuclear bomb us, and you're upset because Trump doesn't look bad, you really need to reevaluate your priorities. Because sacrificing any Americans to make one person look bad is, I don't even have, some of my students found this and I can't say what I really think because they might see it. But one good thing that did come out of this is that the Korean War has ended. In the Korean War, we signed peace treaties with South Korea, and we signed, we basically, it's like a big fight going on at school. You got two students and they're swinging at each other and a teacher goes in between them and separates them. Well, that doesn't just mean that their fight is over. It just means that we've stopped them from continuing to fight. And if they run into each other in the hall and somebody gives someone else the shoulder or an elbow, they might start up again. And there's always that threat with those students that they're going to continue to fight. And well, that's what's been going on with Korea. And the fact that now they have signed a peace treaty, they have effectively ended that war. They have agreed that they are no longer going to have that on edge threat of fighting. And that's a really big deal for world peace. North Korea has been one of the countries lately in the world that has been the furthest from peace possible. Now there's other things that, North Korea still needs to take other steps in order to, really be peaceful. I mean, they're oppressing the people that live there. The government is. But this is a really big step in the right direction. And Trump really did have a lot to do with it. He didn't have everything to do with it. Those two countries came to that consensus by themselves. But without the influence of Trump, it may not have happened. He was instrumental in pushing them to meet and to get that going. And of course, the left isn't going to credit him with that. They're going to pretend that fact didn't happen. But it did happen. And it's important to note that when a president does something good, they deserve that recognition. And this is a big deal, even for people that don't think it is. It really is. And I'm already at 9 minutes for this video, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But be like Kanye. Think for yourself, be a free thinker, and don't be afraid of liberals telling you that you're an idiot for doing that, because nobody wants to work for a company that they hope goes out of business, because then you lose your job. And nobody wants to live in a country where other people hope that their president fails that also live in that country, because if our president fails, all of us fail. So think for yourself and don't be a sheep, and don't be led around by identity politics, because you are better than that and you're smarter than that. Have a great weekend.